It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a Monday. All I can say is that it is a Monday. I apologize for starting the show late. This is the Geno Jones Show, by the way, brought to you by Lockwood Outdoor Advertising, converting cars to cash. And we are all about supporting black businesses right here on the Geno Jones Show. LockwoodOutdoor.com. It's the only African-American owned outdoor digital advertising company here in the state of South Carolina. So once again, see your company's name, products, goods, services, see them up in lights. They get the job done, converting the cars to drive by this big, beautiful digital outdoor advertising sign, digital billboard. Yes, Lockwood Outdoor Advertising, LockwoodOutdoor.com. So I apologize, but listen, two things happened. One, my guest, I wanted to wait on him. He was in the State House here in South Carolina, was in session. And two, just the enemy is busy. The technical enemy and gremlins, I don't know what was going on. But you know what? You always got to hang in there, because they say it's always darkest before the dawn. So, but we're here now. Thank you for waiting. I apologize. But like I said, this guest is very, very important. Talking about the issue of hate and hate crimes. Of course, the hate and evil that killed 8 Asian American women in and near Atlanta is the same hate and evil that killed 9 black people inside of a church right here in Charleston, South Carolina. It is also the same hate and evil that killed 22 Hispanic Americans at a Walmart in El Paso. It is also the same hate and evil that invaded the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, that wanted to kill Mike Pence, former vice president, and wanted to put, now I'm paraphrasing, I'm quoting, one of the seditionist domestic terrorists. They wanted to put a bullet through the head of the House Speaker, the House of Representatives, United States House of Representatives Speakers, Nancy Pelosi's brain. That's what they said they wanted to do. So unfortunately, here in South Carolina, I believe now we are only one of 3 states that don't have any official hate crime laws on the books. So my guest I'm about to bring on the show right now, he has been at the tip of the spear, in the front of the line. He has written hate crime legislation, and he's been fighting this good fight, good trouble for a while. And unfortunately, life and circumstances only just reveals why it's so important that not just here in South Carolina, but everywhere, every state in America, even there should be a federal, actually, let me correct myself. There is a federal hate crime law on the books, but every state should have their own state hate crime laws on the books. So without any further delay, let me bring to the show State Representative Wendell Gilliard. Brother Gilliard, thank you, man.
Hey, Geno, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, listen, the enemy is my mother who's watching right now. She said, boy, the devil, the enemy is busy.
Oh, yes, he is. Yes.
But you know what? Yeah. That's irrelevant, because, the victory is going to be ours. So I want to get right into it, Wendell. Representative Gilliard, you have been, like I said, at the front of the line. You've been at the tip of the spear, fighting for hate crime legislation here in South Carolina. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that South Carolina is only one of 3 states. I think only 3 states in America still do not have hate crime laws on the books.
And you're right on it, Geno. You got to remember, it's Arkansas and Wyoming now. Of course, we're included, and that brings the number to 3. When I first started out on this venture, there were 5 states that did not have a hate crime law. But nevertheless, this was back in 2015, okay? But nevertheless, here we are in 2021. There are now 3 states, the states that I just named. But I've introduced myself to a great person in Atlanta, Georgia. As you well know, Atlanta, Georgia was the last state that came,
Yes.
recently and created a hate crime law. A good friend of mine, he's a lawmaker, Carl Gilliard, for namesake, no relations, but we are good friends. I contacted him months ago. We became good friends. And the reason why I did that, because I wanted to find out what type of situation, that they went through that make them even wanted to think about hate crime law, okay? And of course, he explained to me because of the prejudice, the racism, when you look at the things that happen in Georgia and in South Carolina, the bill, it covers, and I always tell people I like to be inclusive, because my thing is when we talk about hate crime or hate crime laws, we want to make sure that we are inclusive, because from my perspective, everybody has a right to life, okay? You know my old saying, Geno, everybody want to act like God, but they don't want to do the will of God.
Yes.
And that's to treat each other with dignity and respect, love each other as brothers and sisters. Not that you agree with everything they do, okay?
Right.
But we're still human. And nobody has a right to bring harm or damage to anybody's property, as a human being, okay? And I've told my pastors in the house up there the same thing, okay? Because we had some pastors that, I feel that they don't believe in this hate crime law, but we feel that they'll come around. But nevertheless, Representative Gilliard in Atlanta, Georgia, he was just tremendous in feeding the information. We compared notes, situation, and it's brought us thus far. And a lot of people, Geno, that they don't know, okay? Back in 2009, when I served 10 years on city council, as you well know, we were having a lot of race relation incidents. Okay, that's when I first decided to go ahead and introduce an ordinance back then when I was on city council, as to declare the KKK a terrorist organization. Okay, what I did. All I did was took the definition of a terrorist organization and I compared it to the history of the KKK, hence qualifying them to become known as and declared as a terrorist organization, because they fit every description in the FBI definition or the word definition for terrorists.
Yes.
Okay, when I did that, what little I know that, hey, this was the only city in the country that had ever attempted to do that. I didn't know that.
Wow.
And believe me, it stirred the clang from North Charleston, Monk's Corner, Somerville. They actually marched on the city of Charleston the day that we were voting on that ordinance. Okay?
Wow.
And long story short, council approved the ordinance.
And what year, Representative Gilliard, I apologize for interrupting, but this is important information. Once again, and we want to just, for context, so what year was this when you enacted this legislation as a council person here in the city of Charleston, South Carolina?
Yeah, this was during the 10 years that I served on city council, and that was back in 2009. Okay, 2009. Okay, and you could go look it up. Councilman Gilliard declares the Klan a terrorist organization, and we had world attention. Now, not that Charleston wanted that attention or I wanted that attention, but I knew that we had to do what we did. And I was glad we were able to do it, okay, in the city of Charleston, okay? But nevertheless, I ran for state office, and it came me, as you well know, I got elected to the state house.
Right.
In 2015, we had the Mother Emanuel 9 tragedy, sad to say. So I made a commitment to the pastors, Mother Emanuel, and the members, and the city of Charleston citizens, that I would see that this hate crime bill become law. sad to say, it had to happen out of tragedy as far as getting momentum, getting wings, but it has brought us this far. And I give accolades because my table is here. And the late Representative Neal that actually made the first attempt at the state level to fight for a hate crime law. And it just died out the subcommittee. I called Representative Cobb Hunter and I told her what I was about to do. I was going to file a bill to go ahead and reintroduce the hate crime bill again. And we can see this thing come to fruition, become law. She said, hey, I'm with you 1,000%. You go ahead and take the baton up. And that's what I did. It has brought us this far. Okay. And when I say far, this is what I mean. When I introduced the bill was given a number. It's House Bill 3620. 3620. It's known as the hate crime bill. And now it went through the legislative process. Okay. It went to the Judicial Committee. Representative Peter McCoy was the chairman of that committee. He's a good friend of mine from James Island. I begged him, sat down with him, showed him why we needed a hate crime law. He agreed. He actually signed on to it. But as fate would have it, he got promoted. He took up another position in Washington, so he left the state. So now the bill was left in somewhat disarray. But the prayers were answered once again because the Speaker of the House, Mr. J.D. Lucas, he signed on to the bill. Well-known Republican, strong Republican up here. And when he signed on the bill, he had his other Republicans friends sign on also. So the bills it had a heartbeat. It took wings again, okay? So what they did, it went through the legislative process in that subcommittee, Judiciary Subcommittee. They approved the bill, but they took some language out of the bill, okay? And you heard me say it early on, this bill has to be all or none, has to be inclusive.
Right.
They took out the part about sexual orientation. And we know that when you look at the history of South Carolina, Charleston, this country, like I said earlier, nobody has a right to lose their life. Nobody should be judged. But we had people who were gay, had different sexual orientation. They were being murdered, robbed, all sorts of things. But they're human beings in the sight of God. Nobody's asking you to agree with nobody's lifestyle, but everybody got a right to life. Everybody is a human being. So when they took that language out, we fought. We went back on the battlefield. I called the Speaker of the House. We got the business involved and the chambers on board. I want to congratulate them. The ADL, National Action Network, Rainbow Push, NAACP. Everybody is on board now. Believe me, Geno, when we went back to the subcommittee meeting and they approved it, they sent it to the full committee, which is the Judiciary Committee. They actually put the language back in. Good. And this was just a couple of weeks ago, okay? Now, in that full committee, I actually came up and stated to a good friend of mine that's on that committee, I said, you know what? As a badge of honor, while y'all holding this committee and y'all approve this language, let's rename this bill in honor of the late Senator Clementi Pinckney.
Great.
Let's call it the Senator Clementi Pinckney hate crime bill. Geno, they took a vote. It was voted unanimously. And that's how we reference that bill now.
Wonderful. Now, Representative Gilliard, for context, I apologize, but for our viewers who are watching all over the country and really all over the world, because this is a live stream on YouTube, let them know who Representative or Senator, State Senator, and Reverend Clementi Pinckney was and is to this community.
That's right. He was a reverend, and he was an elected official. He was an awesome grassroots brother. And anybody from the South, when you use that terminology, that's a badge of honor. But I was proud.
And let him know what church that he was. Let him know how he got killed.
He was
Yes.
the pastor of Mother Emanuel
He
Church.
was one of those
Okay,
9 that was murdered in his church. He was
one of
during
the
Bible
9.
study. Yes.
That's right. Joe was. And my brother was his best friend. And as you well know, Gino, I'm a political business consultant. When
Yes.
Clemente Pinckney first ran for the state house, everybody thought he just jettisoned to the Senate. No, he ran for the state house first. I actually consulted for him, okay, for the many weeks. Clemente used to come to my house with the babies in hand.
Wow.
These young ladies, and they just did a big story on the his siblings, you know,
Yeah.
his
His
children,
kids. Mhm.
and they're now 16, 17 years old. They up in
Wow.
age now. Okay, it was a beautiful story. But when I first used to consult for Clemente, he used to come to my house every Saturday morning religiously during the campaign, sit the 2 babies in my living room, and he made sure before we did anything, we would kneel and pray in my living room. Okay, this went on for like 3, maybe 4 weeks, easy. And he won the race at the state level. Long story short, he got elected. He served the 2 years term, and he came back and he said, "You know what, Wendell? I think I want to run for state senate. I want you back on my team." Long story short, got back on his team. He became state senator.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how and this is the first time I ever told anybody that story.
Wow. Well, I'm honored.
And
Thanks
I'm
for
telling
sharing that.
it to
Yes.
you.
Thank you for
Okay,
sharing that, man.
because you got, when you get things that are national attention, world attention, it's always a story behind the story.
Yes.
Don't ever go to people who people point you to. You say, you don't do that, Gino. You go to the grassroots people because you try to get the story behind the story.
Yes.
So now that's why I'm divulging all this to you in this moment. And I'm proud to do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So what's the
Yeah.
status? Where we are? When does it go in front of the full House for a vote, and then we can talk about what has got to happen, and what we can do, and what people can do, not just here in South Carolina, but I mean nationwide and worldwide in terms of calls to encourage lawmakers here to pass that legislation here. So first, what's the status? When does it go in front of the full House for a vote?
You always ask these $1,000,000 questions. You're right on target. You're right on time. Like I stated, when it went to the full committee, which is the Judiciary Committee, they voted unanimously to approve the bill.
Great.
That bill now, this was last week when the committee met, okay? That bill now will be put on a calendar to go to the full House. That's historic. You know why, Gino? And I'm glad you asked the question, because that had never happened before with a hate crime bill.
Wow.
So every step the bill is making now, the Clemente Pinckney hate crime, Senator Clemente hate crime bill, it's history. Okay, so look for the bill to come up in at least the next week and a half.
Oh, great.
And I'm telling you what we're trying to do. We have this rule under our Constitution. We have a crossover date that we have to meet. You have to have all bills approved and appointed past the House to get to the Senate before the crossover date. We will meet that crossover date.
What is that date, by the way?
It's supposed to be April the 9th.
Okay.
Okay, April the 9th. Now, the bill would have come to the floor before April 9th, and we want everybody at the sound of my voice to call your state lawmakers, both the House and the Senate. More importantly now, the House, because as you well know, it's 124 of us, okay? And I always tell people, don't waste your time on the Democrats. Go to the legislative, South Carolina legislation.com, get in that website, look at all the Republicans, waste the time talking to them. The Democrats are on board, is my point.
That's a good point. Good point.
So that you got to spend time where it's really valued at. The Democrats are on board. Call all of the Republicans and get them on board. Okay?
I'm sorry. Once again, where can people go to get those phone numbers? Can they just Google the state of South Carolina and look for their local? And in case they don't know who everybody of course should know, but everybody doesn't know exactly what district do you live in? Who is your state representative?
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
when you go to that site, that information will come up. Okay, you could go to sc.gov on your browser. That'll take you there, and you'll see where you can punch in your legislator, where they're from, what county. Okay, whatever 46 counties that you can identify where you live at, you could get to it quicker like that. Okay.
Yeah, you could probably type in your zip code and it'll probably come up.
It'll ask you all that once you get to the sc.gov
Gotcha.
website. You see whether you're right to put in your zip code and everything. Okay. And that's what we're trying to organize people to do now, to call their lawmakers and get them on board with H-3620. Okay. And it's called the Senator Clemente Pinckney hate crime bill.
I love it.
So please, we're trying, and let me do some backtracking. I think it's very pertinent that people understand this. When I had introduced the body camera, it's almost like deja vu.
Yeah.
People, you had mountains to climb, fences to leap over, but we did it. We did it thanks to you putting the information out there. That, as you well know, that is now law. Okay. And also, the question is always put to me, why does 47 states have a hate crime law? Well, guess what? Let's go over this right quick. In my research, I found out that the 47 other states found this out also. Number one, when you have a hate crime law, state law, look at the federal hate crime blog. They have what they call a backlog. In other words, it's going to take months, if not years, to get to certain incidents as it pertains to hate crime. Okay? When you have a hate crime state law, you can expedite these incidents. Okay? That's what the 47 states found out. Because you got to remember, Geno, when you have any type of hate crime incident, the whole city, the whole county, is that they're almost on pause to say, my God, we need to resolve this, and we need to resolve it now.
Right.
People could be rioting, unrest, and that's why it's so essential that what these other 47 states found out is, hey, it works well when we can expedite these incidents. Okay. The next thing, and the next thing that they found out, state laws cannot supersede federal laws. Okay. And what I mean by that, when you look at this, the federal law as it pertains to hate crimes and the definition for it, the law might not have certain things in it. In other words, the law is too broad.
Right.
When you create your own in-house, your state hate crime law, you can insert things in there that the federal government does not have. Because all the 47 states found out the federal law is not comprehensive enough. It's not detailed. It doesn't really have, some things don't have teeth. Okay.
I'm glad you went there, because I wanted to ask you in terms of the hate crime bill that you've written here, the Senator Clemente Pinckney hate crime bill. So does it address hate or violence based on race, gender, sexual orientation, religion? What classifications are in that bill?
Well, those classifications, you hit it again. You hit the mark. They are in there. It's already in there. Because as you well know, when we first started talking, you remember I told you that at that subcommittee meeting, they had actually extract language.
Sexual orientation, yes.
Thank you. It was some of the very language that you went over. Okay, but we had the language inserted back in there. Okay, when you talk about gender identity, things along those lines. Sometimes federal law don't have those things in there. When you talk about,
go ahead, finish. I'll ask you.
When you talk about penalty, penalty wise, state laws tend to be more comprehensive, more stiff. Okay. When you talk about time wise, now once again, we can expedite because we create the manpower. Okay, and we create. Yes, and I see you smiling because I'm hitting it on all avenues. And the other thing that I want to mention, when you have a hate crime in-house law, right now we are not mandated by law because there is no law to keep statistics on incidents of hate crime. There's no records. Okay. So when you have a hate crime law in-house, now you're mandated to do what? Keep track of incidents, all sorts coming from all 46 counties. And then the other thing they found out in 47 states is when you have a hate crime law, people are more apt to come forward and report the incident. So you see how it works in all avenues.
Yes.
In any state.
Question,
So,
real quick. Is religion a part of, is that one of the classifications in this hate crime law here in South Carolina?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Now, keep in mind, it's a fluent situation because as it goes through the legislative process, anybody can create what we call an amendment,
right?
To take something out or add something in. Okay, I know it's like playing poker, but when you've been up here long enough, you understand the process. Okay, but yes, it's a fluent situation until it comes out of the House intact and goes to the Senate. And even when it goes over to the Senate, all 46 of those senators over there, they might take something out. They might make amendments. You got me. We don't know that.
Have you gotten any feedback from some of the state senators? Have you gotten support?
Oh, definitely will. Yeah, you become a lobbyist of your own bill because you know the legislative process. You got to go up there and show the senators, and it's mostly the senators with seniority. Okay, that's how I cut through the chase with my time. You go to the senators with seniority, they have influence over the other senators, and it works well like that. Okay, and we have some powerful senators on both sides of the fence. Okay. So, I mean, we're looking for this thing to really become law, like it should, as to make a statement in the state of South Carolina and show the world we're willing to move in the 21st century.
Well, it's the moral thing to do, and we are in the South, and people, we claim that we are in the Bible Belt. So if we really are about doing God's work, in WWJD, what would Jesus do? Well, Jesus didn't discriminate against anybody. Irregardless of how much money they had, what they looked like, whatever sexual orientation, whether they even believed in God or not. He didn't shun anybody. So it's the moral thing to do. But from a business, for some folks, you can't appeal to their sense of morality. So you have to appeal to their pocketbook and explain to them, like I know you have, it's good business. Corporations that are coming here, you got BMW and Mercedes. They've opened up these huge plants here in our general area of South Carolina, and I'm sure you can put pressure on the CEOs from Boeing to Mercedes to Volvo to BMW, all in this state. Say, hey, listen, you guys have employees that are African American, Hispanic, Asian American, Native Americans. Some who may be gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, some who may be Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, Jewish. So I'm sure they wouldn't want any of their employees to be discriminated against. So I would think that it makes good business, and it would make the state of South Carolina more attractive to other companies, because no company wants to be associated with a state or a politician or anyone that it comes across as being racist, sexist, misogynistic. Not at all. So it's good.
That's right.
It's the moral thing to do, Representative Gilliard, and it's good business.
Yeah, like I always say, everybody want to act like God, but nobody wants to do the will of God. And that's to treat people with respect, dignity, brotherly love, etc. Everything you just went over. And a couple of those companies that you name actually are on board. They have actually called the Speaker of the House. They have actually put out letters to the lawmakers stating just what you just said. You hitting it on all avenues.
So would you like to share who those companies are?
Because you know why, Geno? I don't, because I think it's right. I kind of like it when they do that.
Okay, well,
I mean, it's a whole list.
So I tell you what, let me do this. This is Representative Gilliard. This is me.
Yeah.
I'm encouraging everybody that's watching, whenever you watch this, to contact all these big companies because we don't know
Right.
who's on board or who's not. So you're just calling to make sure that they are on board and send
That's right.
emails
Yeah.
to the CEO of all these companies, from Boeing to Mercedes to Volvo to BMW. So, like I said, send letters to the CEOs of all these companies. Some
Yeah.
some are already on board, but we don't know
That's
who's
right.
on board.
Yeah.
We don't know who's not on board. So
Yeah.
the more they hear from people, the more that CEOs. One thing I've learned just from personal experience, Representative Gilliard, when you take the time to send an email to a CEO, it's amazing how you get feedback. You will get a
You do.
response. It's worked
Yes.
3 times for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
You're
guess
right.
CEOs don't like to get, I guess they figure, wow, if you take the time enough to write an email and do the research, because it's not easy always to get the the email address for a CEO of a company.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am encouraging everyone to send emails, identify the
Please do.
CEOs of all the
Thank
major
you.
corporations here in the state and tell them you want them to contact and to use the influence, the power, the prestige and privilege that they have to let your lawmakers know that it is the moral thing and the smart business thing to do is to support the Senator
Yep.
Clemente Pinckney hate crime bill here in South Carolina.
That's right. Amen.
You
Thank
good with
brother.
that? So and then
Hey, good with that.
so you off the hook. If anybody got any issue, they can holler at me. They can come on the show and we can talk about it.
No, trust me. I believe. I don't mind being on the hook. You've been knowing me long enough.
I know, but that's all right. You
I
know,
can handle it.
it's about doing the right thing, man. Listen,
Got to. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really
we're
is.
we're not to judge. Trust me. And I know this is a hard lesson for all of us, whether you agree with a person or not. But we're not to judge. We come on this earth to treat people with dignity and respect. Okay, you know who the true judge is.
Yes, and it's funny you said because my mother's watching right now. Her and my grandmother would always, my grandmother, God rest her soul, she would always say, and my mother still will say, "Who died and left you in charge?" And then she said, when it comes to, and this ties into the hate crime laws. She's the other day we were talking about the situation in Atlanta. She said, "Listen, you can't give life, so you don't have the right to take a life."
True. Thank you. Bottom hardness. That's right. That's right. What I don't like what they did in Atlanta, I think they should have been more forthcoming. That old saying: if it's a duck, walk like a duck, quack like a duck.
Call it what it is.
But trying to dance around the issue, we should never. Once we get the facts, and I believe they had the facts, and once they had that, they should have come forward. But they let these people out to say these silly, asinine things that didn't make any sense. And it is so wrong and degrading. Our Latino brothers, our Jewish brothers, whatever creed or color, you're human. You're all brothers and sisters in God's sight. And we should treat each other as such. But I knew it was a hate crime when I first read the news.
Right.
Okay?
And
I mean, come on. It was a hate crime.
And in closing, because I know you got to run, it's been a long day. I want to close with something that I talked about a couple times last week, Representative Gilliard, especially when it comes to our Asian American brothers and sisters. Now, I said, let's be honest, because that's what you and I do, and that's what I do on this show.
Yeah.
I said because the conversations are being had, and they've been had. There's a number of African Americans that are saying, well, wait a minute, man, listen, the Asian Americans, they've really never come to the rescue of black folks. And, when I go into these hair stores and beauty supply stores, some of these restaurants, and, they racially profile me and they talk to me nasty and they act in a racist way. So here's the bottom line. Have some Asian American business owners been racist toward black people? Yes, absolutely. However, just let's use last summer, 2020. I saw Asian American brothers and sisters of all ages that was out marching in support of George Floyd. and Ahmaud
Right.
Arbery in Georgia, and Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mhm.
And so what I did, Representative Gilliard, and I'm gonna close on this.
Yeah.
There's a poem by, and I'm sure you're very familiar with it. There's a
Mhm.
poem by it was a German pastor,
Mhm.
who was he was against just the whole Nazi movement and regime in Germany. And it started off, he said, first they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they
Mhm.
came for the unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And
Mm.
then they came for me, and there
That's right.
was no one left to
No
speak
one.
for me. So
Amen.
the
Hey.
point of that message is uh, racism, hate, evil, misogyny, sexism, anti-religious bigotry, homophobia, transphobia,
Mhm.
hate against one group of people, the same, like I started off the show, the same hate and
Right.
evil that killed those 8 Asian American women near
Mhm.
Atlanta was the same
Mhm.
hate that killed Senator and Reverend Clemente Pinckney and those 8
Mhm.
other beautiful souls right here in Charleston, South Carolina,
Yep.
and Mother Emanuel. It was the same hate that killed those 22 Hispanic brothers and sisters at that Walmart in El Paso. It was the same hate and evil that killed those 11 Jewish brothers and sisters in a synagogue in Pittsburgh. And it was the same hate that tried to kill Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi
That's right.
January
Yeah.
6th. So it goes
Yep.
to show you that it's not just people of color. That
Mm.
hate turned on itself.
Yeah.
Those were
Yeah, man.
people
Yeah.
who looked just like Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi.
Mhm.
Those are
Mhm.
white people who came for other white people. So that
True.
hate and evil will come for all of us.
Amen. Eventually. Yeah. And it's the same hate that brought our ancestors across the Middle Passage.
Yes, yes,
Got
absolutely.
me?
Yes. So Representative Wendell Gilliard, thank you, man, for you've been putting in that work. You put in the work, and you don't jump around and wave your hand and say, "Look at me." You just quietly, man. You just put your head down. You get in there and put in the work. And I'm so honored
Thank you.
to be able to call you a friend, and I'm honored
Yep.
to allow you to use this platform. But you already know you always have a home. So what I want you to do, I want you to give me an update every step of the way.
Mhm.
Once the bill has been signed and we are speaking it into existence, I'm naming it and claiming it.
Amen.
That the House of Representatives, the State House here in South Carolina, is going to, in a major way, vote to approve the Senator Clemente Pinckney hate crime bill, and then when it
Amen.
goes to the Senate, same
Mm.
thing, and the governor is going to have to sign off on it. So we are speaking that into existence.
Amen, brother. You're powerful, Geno.
Well, thank you, man. So yeah, please be sure you come back once
All right.
again and let me know the status once the House is ready to have the full vote, or better yet, after the House has the full vote, or if you want to come on before that, so we can encourage
Yeah.
folks to
Oh, man.
make sure that they call the state senators or the state representatives. Again, we'll do that. Representative Wendell
Thank you.
Gilliard, thank you, brother. God bless you. Love and respect as always.
All right.
Man. I
Same here,
appreciate
brother.
you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Geno.
All right. That's Representative
All right.
Wendell Gilliard, everybody. He's a good brother. Listen, let me get out of here. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. Thank you for waiting. It was worth the wait. I apologize. We started the show about 25 minutes late. Then, like I said, the enemy is busy. It was just some technical snafus. I don't know why, but that's all right. God stepped in and was like, okay, I got this. So thank you for being patient. I hope it was worth the wait. This is very important. Hate crime. This is one of only 3 states that still don't have hate crime legislation, hate crime law here locally in the state of South Carolina. So Representative Gilliard, he's been fighting that fight for a long time. Thank you for watching, everybody. God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Daily Variety Show, brought to you today by Lockwood Outdoor Advertising, the only Black-owned outdoor digital advertising company here in the state of South Carolina. I'm all about supporting black businesses. And if you really are, if you want to be not just an ally, you want to be an ally, you want to be more. You want to be an accomplice. It's one thing to be an ally, that's great, but you want to be an accomplice to make it happen. So how can you do that? By supporting black businesses. And this is a wonderful African-American owned business, and it can help your business. All right, it'll be great for your bottom line. All right, converting cars to cash. LockwoodOutdoor.com. LockwoodOutdoor.com. Shout out to Bruce Gage, the official wardrobe stylist for the Geno Jones Show. Check him out on Instagram, Bruce Gage, Gage, and flyballthestore.com. Flyballthestore.com. Bruce Gage on Instagram, Gage, Gage. Shout out to Markel Bailey, Kel B. Cutting, the official barber and hairstylist for the Geno Jones Show. Check him out on Instagram, Kel B. Cutting. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. I love each and every one of you. I really do. Mother, I love you. I know you're watching. All right, everybody, have a great evening. Oh, listen. So, actually, I'm breaking the news, but I know my mother's about to get a big smile on her face. So tomorrow morning, I will get my first COVID-19 vaccine. So I will come on the show tomorrow. I'll tell you all about it, how it went. You'll see that I won't be growing 2 heads or 3 heads, one on each side, nothing like that. So I will give you my firsthand experience on what it was like to get my COVID-19 vaccine. I'm going to try to get Dr. Arnold on and just tell you why it's so important. Because there's still a lot of folks that's running. Did you see video from down South Beach in Miami? It's just folks in Texas. Folks are just out, as they say, man, folks are just out here in these streets, out here in them streets with no mask. They don't want to wear a mask. They want to fight you if you tell them they got to wear a mask. And then they don't want to get the vaccine. Well, damn, you got to make up your mind. You cannot wear a mask. You can't not wear a mask and not social distance and just want to be in a crowd of hundreds and thousands. Now, this is what we're not going to do, because we want to get this COVID-19, we want to get this thing behind us. We want to put this fire out. Almost 550,000 Americans have died. That is nearly 550,000 families that lost somebody they loved. This is not a joke. It might be a joke to you because you haven't gotten it yet, if you've been that fortunate, or maybe you got it and it wasn't that bad. But there are 550,000 other people who were not as fortunate as you. All right? So, and the next time you keep running around out here in these streets with no mask and no social distancing, with all these variants, these kind of mutated versions of COVID-19, these variants, okay? You can play around if you want to. That's why I'm going to keep my mask on and keep away from some of y'all, because some of you all just don't want to do the right thing. I digress. But I love you nonetheless. I love you, but you got to love yourself. I'm out of here. Until tomorrow, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, The Geno Jones Show, live right here on YouTube. In the meantime, be blessed, and I mean it. Be blessed.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.